Like a Dragon Gaiden was a wonderful tribute to our favorite dragon of Dojima, so it's only natural that Like a Dragon Gaiden would feature a lot of references to Kiryu's past and the series' history. With Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth on the horizon, we'd like to look back at some of the references to the Yakuza/Like a Dragon series that put a smile on our faces. Possible spoilers for the main story, sub-stories, and the rest of the Yakuza series incoming. If you haven't played the game and don't want to be spoiled, maybe you can check out our review of Like a Dragon Gaiden instead. Let's start with something light, or rather, someone heavy. After all, if she can hold down Kiryu of all people, she's gotta weigh a fair bit. It's our favorite old hag, the Obatarian herself, Etsuko. People who've played Yakuza 0 and Yakuza Kiwami 2 should be familiar with her. We first meet Etsuko during Majima's story back in the 80s, when Majima was still in Osaka, working as the manager for the Cabaret Grand. Majima is begrudgingly made aware of her existence as she cuts in line in front of him at a food stand, and the two butt heads. We meet her a second time in Yakuza Kiwami 2, this time as Kiryu. Kiryu bumps into her and gets dragged into her colorful life of being a trouble magnet, as she gets accused of shoplifting, which leads to her drawing the ire of some thugs. Both times, she proved how headstrong she is, even in the face of the stoic and masculine Kiryu and Majima, by being an absolute, overly eager menace to the two. She finally makes another appearance in Gaiden after all those years, largely unchanged, like an immortal force of nature, to bring the storm back into Kiryu's life. She confuses Kiryu with a past partner, Juntaro. She then chases Kiryu around, calling out to Juntaro whenever he's staking out dangerous thugs and embarrassing him whenever he's conducting an investigation. In the end, Kiryu realizes she only jumps in and becomes an annoyance whenever conflict arises so that she can defuse the situation. She also casually mentions that it's been 13 years since they last met, leading Kiryu to believe she does remember him and is only pretending because she's somehow understood his complicated situation. Now this is a fan favorite, and is probably nostalgic in more ways than one. Gaiden brings back a very well-liked minigame in the franchise, Pocket Circuit Racing. This minigame has you building, customizing, and racing miniature motorized cars. Even if you have never played a single Yakuza game, you might have seen this kind of thing before. In 1982, Tamiya released their now iconic mini 4-wheel drive series. It's a series of 1:32 scale cars running on a battery-powered motor, and this is what the Pocket Circuit Racing is based on. So if you grew up in the 80s or the 90s, they'd most likely be familiar. Similarly, Pocket Circuit Racing was introduced in Yakuza 0, which is set in 80s Japan, right around the time when the real-life counterpart was first released. This was more than just a minigame, featuring an entire story arc centered around it and consisting of multiple subquests that served to progress the side story. It soon became one of the most memorable parts of Yakuza 0. It was so popular that, while it wasn't in the original Yakuza, when it was remastered into Yakuza Kiwami, a Pocket Circuit Racing sub-story arc was also added to it. This minigame holds significance to Kiryu as well. Kiryu is known to love racing and is always seen fondly looking at Pocket Circuit Fighter's picture whenever he sings Baka Mitai. There are only two things in this world that would make the indomitable Kiryu cry: the love he has for his kids, and losing a Pocket Circuit race. Seeing Kiryu, this burly, hard-boiled, grown man, get really passionate about racing minicars against little kids is certainly one of the highlights of the series. There's even a touching end to Gaiden's racing sub-story, which involves Kiryu going up against the manager of the Pocket Circuit bar in a race, and it connects to all the Pocket Circuit Yakuza sub-stories. You should see it yourself. It's an amazing way to close out this part of the series' history. In the main story, you need to go through certain arena battles to find clues as to where Hanawa, your handler in the Daidoji, is being held captive. You join a special arena event where each round attempts to recreate a legendary fight in the underworld's history. Here we find references to the most iconic people and fights in the franchise. In Kiryu's first fight, he goes up against an impersonator of the legendary Watase Masaru, the head of the Watase clan, sponsoring the special event at the arena. Watase made his first appearance in the series in Yakuza 5, as the man from the Omi Alliance who planned to wage war on the Tojo clan to cement his legend as a great Yakuza. He's an honorable man who lives for fighting and recognizes Kiryu as the same. He also plays a pivotal part in Yakuza Like a Dragon and conversely Like a Dragon Gaiden as the person who leads the plan to dissolve the two biggest Yakuza clans in Japan, Omi and Tojo. In the second match, the announcer set the stage at Kamurocho in 2005. That's right, you'll be fighting What? It's not Nishiki? Why not? That makes sense, right? You fight yourself? Sorry. In the second match, you fight against yourself. The next opponent is an impersonator of Kiryu, much to the annoyance of Kiryu himself. We probably all expected to fight Nishiki in this battle segment, as a nod to the first Yakuza.
Bring that shit, Kazuma!
Nishiki is still mentioned in the announcer's intro spiel, as you can't talk about legendary Yakuza fights without at least mentioning Nishiki and the iconic fight to the death between him and Kiryu, whom he once considered his sworn brother. Nishikiyama Akira, or Nishiki, grew up with Kiryu in the orphanage before they were both adopted by Kazuma Shintaro. They were thick as thieves, but the unfortunate events that took place during the first Yakuza warped Nishiki into a power-hungry monster. In the end, Kiryu had no choice but to stop his own sworn brother. The final match in this violent trip down memory lane takes us back to the winter of 2006, to the fateful meeting between the Dragon of Dojima and the Dragon of Kansai. Kiryu finds himself face to face with a fake Ryuji Goda. Like Watase, Ryuji was a member of the Omi Alliance who wanted to wage war against the Tojo clan. He's a hot-blooded Yakuza, but much like Watase, an honorable person who would never fight dirty. Kiryu recognizes this and puts down fake Ryuji for fighting dirty, saying he could never hold the candle to the real thing. Later in the game, you return to the bustling district of Sotenbori. Sotenbori has been featured in multiple Yakuza games, but this time we're tracing some fan service all the way back to Yakuza 0. In Gaiden, Kiryu, after returning to Sotenbori, finds out that a new information broker has set up and taken root in the area. This information broker is then revealed to be Akame. Kiryu eventually meets Akame and is led to her office. Akame casually mentions that her office space used to be a storehouse for a cabaret club called Odyssey. Back in Yakuza 0, Majima borrowed this storehouse from the Odyssey's owner, Yamagata, to hide Makimura Makoto. Makimura Makoto is a central figure in Yakuza 0's plot and the development arc of both Kiryu and Majima. It was the desire to save Makoto from being an innocent victim of the affairs of the underworld that led to the two becoming the legends that they are today. The storehouse is where we see Majima get to know Makoto better, and where Makoto mentions the watch that shows up in the emotional post-credit scene of Yakuza 0. It's nice to see something from that time being referenced even this far into the future. I mean, hell, the Grand is still standing too. In one of the side quests, you're tasked to chase a man who has been hunting down homeless people. You don't know what this man looks like other than that he looks like a gorilla. You eventually find the Gorilla Man, and it turns out he's also trying to solve the case of the homeless hunter. Then says, "You, Kiryu, look like a gorilla yourself." This man is Masaharu Kaito. Masaharu Kaito is a central character in the Yakuza spin-off series Judgment. He works for Yagami Detective Agency and is in Sotenbori on the job, along with his subordinate, Higashi. What makes this throwback so special is that we never thought we'd see the day that Judgment could cross over with the mainline series. Sure, Judgment takes place in Kamurocho, and sure, the Tojo clan make their appearance in the story, but seeing the actual characters interacting with the Kiryu Kazuma is a different thing altogether. And it's even better that it's the two lovable gorillas that team up to lay the beat down on some good-for-nothing goons. This is probably the most interesting and intriguing of the throwbacks. Hanawa acts as your handler in the Daidoji, the secret organization responsible for keeping Kiryu dead. Hanawa has his fair share of skeletons in the closet, with his identity being a hot topic of conversation among the series' fans. At the end of Like a Dragon Gaiden, Hanawa gives Kiryu a fake ID with a new alias, or rather, an old alias. Joryu was a little too on the nose, says Hanawa. A little too late for that, don't you think, Hanawa? So Hanawa deems Suzuki Taichi as a more fitting alias instead. Kiryu remarks that he's used this name before, which he has, during the events of Yakuza 5. When he worked as a taxi driver, Kiryu used this alias to distance himself from the kids of the Morning Glory orphanage and protect them, much like his present situation. Hanawa explains that he's aware of the circumstances surrounding his previous alias. A puzzled Kiryu recalls never telling the Daidoji about that time in his life. Hanawa responds by saying that before he became a Daidoji agent, he got a chance to meet Kiryu and believed that they were both men that found a new life. Which leads to the big question. Who exactly is Hanawa? A lot of theories are going around, but the most plausible one seems to be that Hanawa is Morinaga Yu from Yakuza 5. There are 3 very compelling pieces of evidence for why people think it's him. First off, Morinaga is one of the only few who know that Kiryu is Suzuki Taichi, with Hanawa specifically stating that he was aware of Kiryu's past alias. This is a must for someone to be considered a candidate for his previous identity. Secondly, the circumstances surrounding Morinaga's death are also quite vague. We never really see his body as he was killed off screen. With the Daidoji constantly looking for capable people who have nothing to lose to take in as agents, this can imply that he was taken by the Daidoji off screen as well. He's already dead, so that checks off the nothing to lose qualification. Morinaga is also a serious and calculating bodyguard, making him an asset to the Daidoji. With regard to his facial features, I'm sure facial reconstruction is child's play to an organization of Daidoji's caliber. And finally, reading into the meta a little here, they have the same voice actor, Hiroki Tochi. I don't think the devs would make references to Yakuza 5 through Hanawa and just accidentally or coincidentally hired the same voice actor who plays an important role in Yakuza 5. The case for Hanawa and Morinaga being the same person seems fairly compelling, but who knows? Only the devs can definitively confirm or deny whether that's true. But it is certainly the most intriguing throwback of Gaiden, if true. Like a Dragon Gaiden is a wonderful love letter to Kiryu's journey, and it's the addition of these throwbacks that let you really get into the reminiscing mood. It shows how much Kiryu has gone through, both good and bad. And these aren't even all of the throwbacks and fanservice scenes in Like a Dragon Gaiden. Drop your favorite moments down in the comments below. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is coming soon, and we'll definitely be taking a look at that as well. So like and subscribe if you want to see more Like a Dragon content, or more video game content in general, and we'll see you in the next video.